And we welcome now Joel and Natasha from America's Roundtable Radio and the International Leaders Summit. Joel, Natasha, good to see you guys. How is it today?
A very good morning and good afternoon to you, Gerard.
Good afternoon, Gerard. How are you doing?
Doing fantastic. So we were just talking on the program earlier about this lingering situation abroad. You've got two major hotspots in the world, it appears, with Israel and what's going on there in the Gaza Strip. And then, of course, you've got the events with Ukraine and Russia that both of which continue to linger. It just doesn't feel like there's any progress or improvement being made. What's you guys' take on this, Natasha?
Right. Actually, this is the whole theme of change of administration. As soon as Biden administration took over, it started with the Russia invasion of Ukraine and recently Hamas's attack on Israel. So weak U.S. leadership that caused these problems, as well as we see just deterioration in both sides, in both areas. Recently, actually today, Russia's attacked critical Ukraine's infrastructure, and they actually destroyed the largest power plant in Ukraine. We read that Polish actually raised their planes in the space, and NATO is on alert of what are the next steps. At the same time, we're witnessing escalation of which is to eradicate Hamas. There is a need to finish the war in Israel's war on Hamas at this stage. They are terrorist groups, and Biden administration is not showing. Is not resolute about saying we need to eradicate Hamas in order to have peace in the Middle East, which is supported by Iran, as we know.
Yeah. But, of course, this is it's a very polarizing issue in this country, Joel. And, in fact, when we're approaching national elections, from the president at the top of the ticket, every member of the House, a number of key races in the Senate, all of this, of course, to determine which party, if any, would have control of parts or all of government. I should say, if any of all of government, somebody's going to control the parts of it. How do you think this plays out, Joel, again, during the election process?
Indeed, there are concerns about what's happening in Ukraine. And in fact, as we shared with you earlier on your program, Gerard, we do believe that Europe has a greater responsibility in shoring up support for Ukraine, not just only by words. They have certainly increased their funding for military assistance, but Europe can do more on that front. When it comes to Israel, it's another situation altogether. America has a unique bond, a connection to Israel dating back to the founding fathers, when they all communicated amongst themselves that it would be great for Israel and the Jewish people to have their own homeland. And in 1948, America was the first country that recognized Israel as a sovereign state. But what we see now is not that Israel is trying to target its enemies. We have to remember that it's Iran-backed Hamas, Houthis, and Hezbollah that are targeting Israel. So that great evil in the region is Iran. And if we remember what happened over the past few decades, it was in 1988 when actually the USS Samuel Roberts was hit by a mine in the Persian Gulf. What did Reagan do? Reagan wiped out half of the Iranian naval fleet. And that was a message. Peace through strength mattered. And that principle is not being upheld today. So that's one of the reasons we're seeing Israel in such a predicament with hostages still in Gaza. And on April 7, we just recalled, actually remembering that it was 6 months ago on October 7 that Israel was attacked.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, I think you're right, Joel, in that it clearly this conflict is a proxy for Iran, and they've been ratcheting up the rhetoric, have they not, and really pronouncing their desire to wipe this country off the planet, our country off the planet. They don't shy away from that goal. It's always been part of their doctrine, it seems. And so prosecuting this war against Israel is, I think, just exemplifies that message and that agenda. But what should the U.S. do, Natasha? I mean, there's lots of debate in the Capitol about providing additional aid to Israel, either in the form of financial assistance or even military support. And there's some disagreement there. What should we do?
Right. I mean, we do have to provide support to Israel because they are on the front line. We are the next, basically. And when you talked about how we got here with Iran, again, it was this administration that they released funds to Iran, the funds that were
Yeah.
blocked in other banks as part of the sanctions, and on the other hand, allow them to sell oil again to other nations. So basically, in that alliance is China. So Iran is selling cheaper oil to China, so benefiting China and Iran, getting Iran enough money to fund Hamas, uh, Hamas, Hezbollah in Lebanon, and Houthis in Yemen. So basically, we are against Iran, and administration is actually trying to distract our conversation from their mistake. They funded this war. If you look at analogy here,
Yeah.
what we're talking about, we have a moral obligation to support Israel, to help them towards Iran, which is actually embedded with Hamas, Hezbollah, and Houthis. So from all sides that Israel is attacked, as well as our military installation in Iraq and Syria are attacked by Iran. So the recent attack actually in Damascus on Iran's embassy, where the first in command of Iraqis, Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps, top leader. So that would be the first leader that was killed after Soleimani in 2020. The top leader. Now Iran wants to retaliate, but it's actually Israel is in the same position as America.
Yeah.
2020. So we need to actually be very resolute and show all support that we can. It's a principled actually approach to do. We don't need any political expediency to appease any group in America that is against Israel and against America in our own country.
Joel, what do you think would change if we are under a President Trump instead of a President Biden? How might our posture change, and how might that impact these hot spots in the country, in the world?
That's an important question that you framed, Gerard. And all we have to do is to look back toward the Trump administration. There was a season of peace, and peace through strength. There was a time when the Abraham Accords was actually signed by countries including Bahrain and UAE, United Arab Emirates, and Morocco. There was a moment where Saudi Arabia was just about to join the Abraham Accords right at the tail end of the Trump administration. So if we are to anticipate a change in the White House, which elections do matter, and certainly if Trump would come into power, I think we would see a total different approach to what is happening. I think Iran will basically understand that, and they understand force. They just don't understand the rhetoric that is coming out of the Biden White House. I think
Yeah.
we will see an overnight change in Iran as well as Russia too. So, peace through strength matters. What Trump did was actually embrace Reagan's concept of peace through strength, of that policy. When Iran tried to attack America, Reagan made an impact.
Yeah.
Also, in the case of Trump, we see him. We see the success that he brought to the Middle East with peace and prosperity to the region.
And then, of course, the relocation of the embassy, right, was sent a very strong message as
Absolutely.
well.
Right. Right, and strengthen
Yeah.
the Abraham Accords with other Arab countries because all Arab countries within the Abraham Accords, they don't like Iran. I mean, they
Yeah.
aligned with America, with Israel against Iran. So we have the whole alliance in place that we need just to continue with the policy of strengthening the Abraham Accords.
Before we go here, Natasha, is it not accurate to say that in the region, Jerusalem's form of government, we got about 40 seconds left, is more consistent with ours than any other country in that area?
Yes, it's the only democratic government actually in the Middle East. Basically, they had elections so many times that basically the people vote for their leaders. And they
Yeah.
are parliamentary democracy, and they have the rule of law. They have independent judiciary. They have Arabs serving in their judiciary. So it's a very multicultural, multi-ethnic, and they're very respectful of different ethnic groups within their country. So basically, they are the only democracy in the Middle East.
Seems like just solely on that basis, we should be in full-throated support of Israel versus the other nations who really are counter to our system and our way of life, honestly. Natasha, Joel, always good to talk to you guys. Appreciate it. Have a good show this Saturday, too, with America's Roundtable Radio. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
for hosting
Gerard.
us.
You got it. Coming